Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. So let's get started. Of course, at the end of the episode, we do the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week to be have a chance to be featured on the show. Now, I had 13 books this week to talk about, and number 13 is West of Sundown, issue 1. This is a new Vault book by Tim Seeley. I am a big Tim Seeley fan, and a big fan of his indie books especially. I like Hack and Slash. I also enjoy Revival. Revival is one of my favorite comics. And, this was a horror book coming from him, so I was like, let me go check this one out. And honestly, I couldn't get into this one as much as I wanted to. I don't really feel like I was able to get into the character. The artwork was a little grittier than I expected. It was in a period of time I wasn't as interested in. I'm not usually a period piece person, so it just wasn't my flavor. So overall, giving that 1.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Fantastic Four, issue 42. I really have not been able to gel with this Reckoning War. Honestly, I might drop the book to the time of Reckoning War and then pick it up again later, because I really just haven't been able to get into this one. I feel like it's really crowded, and even the cosmic stuff, I feel like honestly, even the plot has not really been moving that much, is what I've been trying to say. And I just feel like the character moments that used to shine in the Fantastic Four is not really shining as much here, just because, again, the artwork is kind of cluttered, the narrative is kind of cluttered, there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of heavy dialogue. It's just not working for me. So overall, giving that 2 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is Earth Prime, issue 1, Batwoman. So there's going to be, every issue is going to tie into the TV shows on the CW, and I thought that was a cool concept. I do think it's a little late for that. I feel like, I don't know if the CW verse is exactly as high as it was when, Arrow was on, and the Flash was kind of more on its middle seasons, instead of season, I think 8 or 9 they're up to now. So I do think that this is an interesting concept, and I hope this brings more comic people to watch these shows, or vice versa. And I do think it's a cool concept that the writing room, some of the writers from the TV shows are writing these books, and so the next one we're gonna get writers from Superman and Lois, and then Legends of Tomorrow, which is what I'm really excited for, is going to be for that 3rd issue. So, I think there's always a different reason to pick up each issue. And then by the end of the series, it's all going to combine and kind of be more of a crossover series. And with this one, I don't really watch Batwoman. I've seen a couple of episodes of season 1, maybe half of the season, and I've seen that, and it wasn't really my thing. And, with this, it's very much for the fans. It's very much for people who have seen the show. I didn't think it was very new reader friendly in that regard. And I don't think it used the comic medium as well as it could have. I feel like the action was sparse here. The actual kineticness of the issue, it's just a lot of talking heads for this, where, I feel like with a comic medium, you could have had some interesting visuals and maybe some stuff that would need a bigger budget than you would have on a television show. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars. I will read the rest of the series, see where it goes, and I'll definitely get Legends of Tomorrow, but I was a little disappointed with this one. But I thought the artwork was pretty good. I actually thought the artwork was stronger in the interior than the cover. Moving on to number 10, I'm sorry, that was 2 stars. But moving on to number 10, which is Strange issue 2. This one really went lower for me. I really enjoyed Strange issue 1. I thought the setup was really good, and here it just kind of dropped the ball. It focused more on the fight, and then introduced a lot of characters that I particularly have no connection to. Maybe it's just because I'm not as involved in the mystical side of Marvel Comics, but I just felt like not even Clea's, I think her name's Clea's, spunk was enough for this issue. I didn't feel like it progressed that much when it came to her character work, and I don't know if I'm interested in the narrative of her trying to find Doctor Strange or, revive him. I want to see her as Strange. I don't want her to just live in the shadow of her husband, and I feel like that's kind of what the series has been. Even though I thought the artwork was really strong for this, especially the action moments, I thought this one wasn't as strong as the first issue. So giving that 2 stars, and that is number 10, I believe. All right, moving on to number 9, which is Spider-Punk issue 1. And this is a book I was actually really looking forward to. I love any comic that has to do with music, and obviously this is Spider-Punk, and this is a character we've seen here and there, I should say, but not really a full comic with him, and that's what we get here. I don't feel like it was a Spider-Gwen type moment where it kind of makes you get right into the character's mind, and I think that's why this was a bit lower. It really showed the excitingness of the world and really showed the edginess of the world, and we get introduced to their Captain America, to their Riri Williams, but I didn't really feel like I knew the main character, why I would want to follow him as a character, and that kind of brought this down and makes me I don't know if I want to pick up the next issue because of that. I don't think there was much of a hook. Even though I think the gritty artwork and the tone of the book worked for this, I just don't know if it really sunk my teeth here. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Alice Ever After, issue 1. This is a series I was really looking forward to. I like the twist on a fairy tale. I'm not a hardcore Alice in Wonderland fan by any means, but I was like, oh, this is cool. We're going to see the aftermath of what happens to Alice after Wonderland, and there's definitely some interesting tidbits here, especially the drug use was interesting, because obviously that's a big theme in Alice in Wonderland for sure, and I like that's the direction it went. The thing that took me out of it, and again, this is personal preference, I was expecting a modern story when I opened this. I thought it was going to be like, okay, what is Alice in Wonderland in 2022? Because we've seen decades and decades of older stories with her, and I wasn't expecting it to be a period piece, and I think that's what really took me out of it. I also thought the artwork, especially after seeing the J. Scott Campbell cover everywhere, I thought the artwork was going to be a little stronger for this one, so I left me a little disappointed. And again, I think there was elements that were interesting, but not enough for me to want to pick up an issue 2. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is, I believe we're up to number 7. Yes, which is Radiant Red, issue 1. I'm sorry, issue 2. This is the spin-off series of Radiant Black, a character I find interesting, but I think I find her more interesting when she's interacting with other characters. I liked her origin story for the most part. Issue 1 kind of left me underwhelmed, and I would say issue 2 left me even more underwhelmed. It's mostly a fight. You kind of get information of where she's going and what her adventure is gonna be, but it didn't get me excited. It didn't, like, once we got to the cliffhanger and we see this kind of toxic serum, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, I guess, but what gets me excited for the journey? And the artwork for me is not as strong as the Radiant Black series, even though I do think there's some good action sequences in this issue. I especially like the villain in this one, and the transparent powers or phasing powers that he had, I thought was cool, but that was most of the issue, and I just don't think it moved as much as I wanted to. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Marauders, issue 1, and I was pretty excited for this one. I'm a huge Kitty Pryde fan. I'm also a fan of Steve Orlando's writing, and I wanted to see what this was all about. What new direction can we take Marauders? And the reason this is higher is because it does take it in a new direction. We have a new team, which I do think it takes a lot of setup in this issue. Like, okay, this is who the team is, and then we get, I think her name's Cassandra. I'm not as familiar with the character, but she's a bad bitch, it seems like. And we get to see her and her interact with the team. And I like this kind of cartoony flavor of the colors and the pencils. I thought worked pretty well. And I like that the pirate ship is now a spaceship, and I thought that worked really well here. I enjoyed Kitty. I do want to see some bigger character moments. I think it definitely focused a little bit more on the plot and the new character that shows up. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good setup issue that makes me interested to see where it's going to go, and makes it feel different enough from the other volume where you're like, oh, this feels like a new chapter. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, the last issue of Black Widow, issue 15. I don't know if the creative team knew it was going to end, because it kind of was in the middle of an arc, and then I still think this issue did a good job at closing things, especially with the connection of Black Widow's family. I love the artwork when Elena was drawing it. I did realize that there were 2 artists, and I don't love when that happens, especially when this is the grand finale of an Eisner Award winning book. I wanted one steady artist and one grand finale, and it just felt like a finale. It didn't feel like a grand finale to me. But I like the beats with Black Widow losing her arm, and how they get away with that. I enjoyed the kind of family beats. I liked Hawkeye was involved. I enjoyed that Winter Soldier was involved. And when the artwork shines, it truly shines. You have those big double page spreads that work so well in Black Widow. But it's so interesting to see all these Marvel titles, especially female-led titles, ending. We had Spider-Woman that ended last week. We now have Black Widow. What female-led titles do we have now? And it's a shame that we're seeing the end of these, but I hope we do get more Black Widow and more Kelly Thompson on our Marvel books. So we are giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Batman issue 122. And with this issue, it's a continuation of Shadow War. I loved Alpha. I thought it was such a great issue. I'm not a big fan of Howard Porter's art style, so this definitely brought it down a little bit for me. And I do think it kind of took a slower pace towards this part 2. It kind of has a part 2 slump here. But I enjoyed a lot of the character moments. I loved Rose and Damian's moment with each other. I enjoyed Talia and Batman's moment, and curious to see what that's going to mean for Catwoman and Batman in the future. And, just the revelation and I guess the small progression of the death of Ra's al Ghul was the aftermath of that. So overall, I think I would have given this a higher grade if not for the art style. But the story was pretty good and interested to see where it goes. And I'm so far really enjoying this arc. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. No, I'm sorry, that was number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is She-Hulk issue 3. And, I've been loving this series. I love Rainbow. I just adore her writing so much. And she does exactly what she did in Runaways, but for the She-Hulk world, which I really like. And it's all about character development. And we really get to see some interesting back and forth between Jack of Hearts and She-Hulk here. But also you get to see She-Hulk just trying to figure out who she is as a lawyer again. And I felt like this was a slower issue, but I still thought it was a good character moment issue. And artwork is always really solid. We get to see appearances from characters like Patsy, and some interesting exchange with them, and actually tying into the moments of Tony Hawk. I was gonna say Tony Hawk. Tony Stark. We get to see those moments as well. And one thing I really love about Rainbow is that continuity is so important to her, and especially when it comes to some Marvel books, you're like, oh, Iron Man is doing this, even though he's doing this in his main title. So it's cool to see that everything really flows and connects to the titles that are going on, because that's what you want with a universe with like Marvel and DC Comics. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Devil's Reign, issue 6. I am honestly pleasantly surprised to see this so high. I have not been loving the Devil's Reign event, but I think it ended on a solid note, where we get to see Matt Murdock is kind of dead to the world. We'll see how that plays out with Daredevil issue 1. And I really love the moment between Daredevil and Daredevil, so Elektra and Matt, where Elektra stops Matt from killing Wilson Fisk because he's mad about his brother, which I don't really care about the brother plot, but I did love that moment just to show how much Elektra has grown since she's become Daredevil, and to really make Matt kind of go off the ledge, or come back up from the ledge, not jump. So I enjoyed that, and I thought the artwork was really good, and I thought the plot progressed a little bit better. We got the Kingpin moment of who the next Kingpin's gonna be, what Kingpin's up to, even though if you're excited for the president and stuff, that didn't end up happening. So the build up definitely went a different direction, but I kind of like that a little bit more. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good ending. Gets me excited to see where Daredevil's gonna go after this. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is Firepower, issue 19. And this is the aftermath of finding out the dragon is real. Everyone's reacting to it, and it's especially the family reacting to it, and the kids kind of learning a little bit more about their powers. The daughter gets the blue fire, so it seems like she's going to be very powerful. The son gets his own fireball, and it's just them trying to reel in, okay, this is our lives now, let's march forward. It definitely stalls things a little bit here, but I think a necessary stall. And also Owen is taken over by this creature, so what's that going to mean in the future? Will the family have to verse him in some way? There's some good action here, some really beautiful artwork, especially when it comes to the dragon. So overall, a pretty good issue. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of your books this week, and let me know your pick of the week. And last week's viewer's pick of the week was DC vs. Vampires issue 1, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one.